All right, sounds good.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Polyglot Developer Twitch stream. So this is round two of trying to get TJ VanToll on the line to tell us about KendoReact. So you'll notice about a week and a half ago we tried this, and my computer basically crashed when I was trying to run it. So I ironed out a few things with Open Broadcast Studio. Things should be going a lot more smooth now, and hopefully we have a pretty successful and entertaining stream learning about KendoReact, right? Right, TJ?
So let's hope so. Sounds good.
Yeah, if for any reason though things do go haywire again, and somebody on the stream notices it before I catch it, please go ahead and add it to the chat. Let us know, so that way I could try to correct it. So TJ, we're going to be talking about KendoReact now, right?
Yeah, so I guess why don't we open up with I think we started down this path last time, and then we ran into
Yeah.
some technical issues. So why don't you just like to kick off this conversation? Tell me what you know about just Kendo React in general.
Yeah, so I've actually, before talking to you for this stream, I didn't even know KendoReact was a thing. I've heard of Kendo UI. I've seen it in plenty of people's source code. But before talking to you, I couldn't even tell you the difference between the two unless they were just one was optimized for React.
Yep, and I mean that's essentially it. So if anybody here is familiar with Telerik, now Progress, we our bread and butter is UI components, and we make them for really screen sizes, platforms, everything, a little bit of everything. And at least I got started at Telerik at the time, about, geez, math. It's been basically 7 years at this point for working on Kendo UI for jQuery, because 7 years ago, jQuery was the hip new thing. And actually, you'd be surprised how much interest we still get in Kendo UI for jQuery today. It's still very much going strong. But over time, we've gotten more demand for, hey, we want components for these other platforms, for most notably Angular and React. And so we started by just doing what a lot of similar sort of solutions do, and just wrapping up our jQuery components. So the jQuery code runs under the hood, but you put like a nice React API or an Angular API on top of it. And then over time, we also realized, well, okay, that you can kind of make that work, but that's also kind of clunky. Like it doesn't optimize down very well. People don't want to ship jQuery in their bundles. People more and more, like there's been more of I guess, focus on performance. So people want really modular components. They want them written from the ground up. So what we did is for Angular and React, we basically rewrote our components, and a lot of them follow the same API, so we can share some things like the themes, for example, with Kendo UI are the same regardless of whether you use it with jQuery, React, or Angular. There's some bits of code we share just because we want to be efficient. It's a lot of work to maintain different solutions, but the components themselves are truly written up with the technology itself. So they are React components through and through. They follow React APIs. They're modular. They're designed to work well together, but also be the sort of things that you can just drop in and not worrying about shipping a whole crap ton of code either.
Let's assume that this is somebody's first time even hearing about Kendo in any flavor. What
Yeah,
what's a one sentence pitch on what that is exactly to the first timer?
UI components, and I'd say consistent UI components, meaning so everything from, and I've got up the Kendo React web page
Yeah, let me
here, and
switch
you can
over
get
the
a
screen
sense
here.
of.
All right, now we
Oh,
have your
okay.
desktop.
Yeah. Sorry. So this is the Kendo React homepage, and I just clicked Docs and Demos, and just to give you a sense of like, I think just quickly skimming this is probably a little bit easier way of showing it than me just trying to talk through it. So if you think like you need a date picker for your apps, or some of the more common ones drop down list, everything up to more complex things, like we have a full charts and graphs solutions. We have a full calendar implementation. We have a scheduler, like if you want to bring like the Outlook calendar view into your browser, like you need to do some scheduling for clients for your own internal company. We have components that do that. We have our data grid, which is our single most popular component, where basically if you just have a whole bunch of data and you need to do things with it, we'll let you do everything from editing your data, filtering it, grouping it, exporting it to Excel, exporting it to PDFs. And really, I'd say the overarching idea is that with KendoReact, what we're offering, I'd say is two things, because we also realize that there's a ton of UI components out there on the web. Like if you Google React date picker, you're going to find 1,000 results. So the reason to use KendoReact would be, for one, consistency. So if you've ever ran into the problem where you're trying to build an app and you're bringing in UI components from a little bit of everywhere, like you got this component you found over here, this one you found in some random GitHub library. With KendoReact, you get a consistent API for implementing these things, so your components all look the same. They're built by a company you can trust. They're going to be maintained for newer versions. There's support. If something breaks, you can yell at us, whereas it's hard to yell at just some random open source library and get any action from them. So I think that's one reason, is just sort of consistency. And the second reason is just implementing functionality that would be very hard to do on your own, or in some cases would be very hard to find some free solution out there for doing it. Like if you wanted to find a data grid that could handle thousands and thousands of rows and paging and filtering and all of these different advanced, virtualization, all of the different things we do, we think we do those things really well. And I should mention as well that KendoReact is a premium solution. So it is a paid tool, and we have it's pricing over here as well.
Is there any,
just
so
we're upfront about it. There is no free tier of KendoReact. So there is a 30-day free trial. So everybody can go in, try them out for completely free for 30 days, use all of our different resources.
Yeah.
And then the pricing is this at the end of that period. So with that in mind, we're definitely targeting organizations more than we are like just some indie developer.
Yeah.
But if you are working at an organization and you have, especially if you have like a large set of applications, you're building a whole lot of React applications, or you're building a whole lot of Angular applications, and you need to be able to build those apps fast, and you don't want to try to make some random grid on the internet work.
Yeah.
And that's really the value propositioning we're offering.
Got it. No, that makes sense. And Kendo UI is a paid one as well, it looks like. I didn't know that either. Or is there a free tier?
Yep. No, so Kendo UI is there. At some point, there was what was called Kendo UI Core, where a certain chunk of Kendo UI was offered for free. And those were just the jQuery components. And to be honest with you, since I'm not as directly involved with the jQuery stuff, I'm not sure, not actually positive, but for the React stuff, I can tell you for sure that it's all paid.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I have no idea what people are using in their source code every time that I've seen it pop up. And I mean, having a paid solution, I mean, that's great because you get the support, right?
Oh yeah, we could have I could spend an entire hour for you talking like free versus paid components, because honestly, one of the biggest things we fight against is we have people come in and say, we tried our stuff, it's great, it solves our problem, but we don't have the budget to pay for it. And I think that I've certainly sort of changed on this over time as I've been more exposed to this space, where at first I was very much like, oh, I'm just going to build everything myself. I don't need any paid tools. But then I think over time, I've really come to appreciate how much purchasing something that solves your problem really well can just help you personally and also help like an organization.
Yeah.
So we're very unapologetic about it.
Without going too far down the rabbit hole, I was once the type of person who would be like, oh yeah, I'm only going to use free, stick with open source, blah, blah, blah. It just became a hassle over time. So now I usually, and I know this is probably bad and people will call me out on it, but I typically, if I can avoid it, stay away from the open source option and go with the paid option.
Well, and I would say too, like, so I'm in the same boat as you in the sense that like I always used to look for free and open source stuff. And what I say now is like, we are a paid tool, but because of that, you should hold us to a pretty high standard. Like if our components aren't solving your problems really well, then you shouldn't pay for it, right? Just use the free stuff. So the idea is that we're offering some real value by providing this component suite. And we also did want to make these things modular as well. So if you are using our components and you're like, yeah, but I have this like really sweet autocomplete widget that's perfectly suits my needs we found on the web, like it's not like you have to use ours completely. Like they were designed with modularity in mind, because we know that the reality is you're going to be using at least somewhat of a hodgepodge of things anyways, but we want to simplify that as much as we can.
Definitely. So let's if you're down, let's take a look at spinning up a new project. See how easy it actually is in comparison to some of the other options that exist.
Yeah, for sure. So let's switch over. So we can do this a couple different ways. I'm okay just like doing this completely on the
Yeah.
fly. I did have up like a small, like essentially like Hello World type
Yeah.
app that we could start coding
Um.
with.
It.
Or we could start completely from scratch if you wanted to, where you want to take it.
So my preference is always I want to know how fast I can get up and running with something, especially something like this where I have not actually used it, and it might be the case with other people as well, because as you and I both know, if somebody can't get it working in the first 5 to 10 minutes, they're not going to use it, right? So
Yep.
let's
All right.
see
So
that.
all right. So let's I'll use Stack Blitz just so we don't have to sit through the app
Oh yeah, that takes 5 minutes alone.
npm install because you want to go fast. All right, pick a component. What's a component you want to see? You got a big list here.
Um, I'm always a fan of charts. Every time I use charts, I know that I've spent a lot of time with charts.js. I always seem to run into trouble, so maybe this can streamline things for
Yeah,
me, right?
let's do let's do charts. So basically, your workflow is going to be you see a chart, or really you see any of our components, and in the docs here, there's going to be a getting started section that's going to tell you essentially the npm installs that you're going to need to get things
Yep.
running. And so let's see, where is that in Stack Blitz? I think I just use it and it
I don't
yells
think
at
I've ever
me.
used StackBlitz
So
before, so this is a new experience for me as well.
yeah, basically just like Code Sandbox, like any of these online tools. We like it quite a bit because all of our demos that you see are built on
Yeah.
top of it. And actually, what's cool is, and we can just try this on the fly, is it's pretty good about saying if you try to use something and you don't have it installed, it'll just like pop up a little button for you that says, "Hey, you need to install
Cool.
this." But just to show you, like if you were outside of that environment, you'd need to head to the getting started page for each individual component, and it would tell you what you needed to install just to get things set up ahead of time. And then what you would do, we try to have pretty comprehensive demos for everything you have in place. And actually, all of these are Stack Blitz demos themselves. I mean, this is sort of the reason why I'm picking Stack Blitz. So you could take this code and just copy and paste it, or use it on your own. So all of these run live in the browser. And then there's typically demos for actually our documentation in general. We believe more in more demo-driven documentation, I guess, if that makes any sense, where a lot of these, instead of just, so you can find API references
Yeah.
for this stuff. But what we found over time is that what people tend to use more is just this sort of thing, where they just see a bunch of examples and can actually grab the source from it.
Yeah, it's like me with Bootstrap, and I know that you can come up with 1,000 old man jokes for using Bootstrap, but it does let me copy paste.
Exactly. So I don't. The one thing about Stack Blitz is I like functional components. So I need to, let's get this down to a true hello world, right?
Yeah.
H1.
Getting rid of all that boilerplate code.
Yeah, so let me see. Okay, I did type that right. All right. So basically we're at absolutely nothing right now. So if I have my chart, the first thing I'll need to do is import it. So I'll need to get the chart from, let's see if I can remember this on the fly, progress / KendoReact.
It's all good. I'm just
Chart?
taking a screenshot here to throw up on Twitter of us. So just proceed. I'll be a little silent for just a minute.
Yeah, that's cool. You can just watch me. I will see how well I can do picking a component out of thin air.
Uh-oh.
I think Stack Blitz 2 is going to, so I think what's going to happen is I do this and I think it's going to yell at me. So yeah, this is actually why I like Stack Blitz, because it's like, oh, hey, you need this, and it's like great. And it also picks up like, you'll remember when I showed the dependency list over there was like 4 things. It can like automatically detect those and say, oh, hey, you need those as well, and just throw it in there. It'll refresh. I don't think this chart by itself won't really. So we have
So
to go a
because
little bit further.
I'm probably the only one around here living under a rock when it comes to Stack Blitz. Is it free? Is it kind of like CodePen?
It is free. I'm actually not totally sure how they make money. Uh, I know, I know, for example, they do have ads, and the reason I know that is because we sponsor them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's their only funding way, but yeah, it's totally free. I wonder if our ads are still up here. I don't know.
We won't dig
But
into it.
anyways, yeah, you might see if you're using StatBlitz, you might see a KendoReact ad from time to time. But let's see. So it wants chart title. Let's see. We'll do like a legend later. I'm gonna need the series is the real meat of this because that's where you say this is like my series of data. And let's see, chart series item. And let me self-close this thing.
Sorry, I'm still composing a tweet, so I'm half with you for just a second, but that's all right. Keep going.
Now this is good because this will give me a chance to. I might copy and paste to start this, and then
That's all right.
basically trim this down
There we go.
because yeah. So we got to import. Let's see. We're gonna need chart legend.
All right, I'm fully back now.
Chart category axis, and then axis item, and I think that's it. The other thing that's kind of cool as well is that I think I need a KendoReact theme for this also. But the other kind of cool thing is that if you are using TypeScript with React,
Yes.
the entire KendoReact library is written with TypeScript. And so like all of those little TypeScript, in fact, I think StackBlitz supports it. I maybe should have started in TypeScript, but our tooling for that is really quite good since the code itself is written with TypeScript.
Yeah.
And I think my problem here is I need import. Let me grab it from this sample project I was going to have it open. So there are 3 different themes that are a part of that you can use with KendoReact. And it's just a matter of where I put it. CSS. That's what I wanted. And
do you want to? I mean, I know that it's nice to show both your editor and the web browser, but do you want to just full screen that web browser, that editor, rather than snapping it
side by side? Yeah. Let's see. Bootstrap. I like the material ones a little bit better. Let's see. Where is the? There we go. Dependencies. I want this. And let's see.
And it's getting those dependencies in StackBlitz without having to put too much energy into it, right?
Yeah. It's pretty lightweight and simple.
Yeah.
I might have to grab. How is this bringing in the theme? And then we'll simplify it from there.
Sure.
Let's see. Oh, it's throwing it in the. It's kind of cheating the system, throwing it in the.
Wait, so
index HTML.
It's actually still using Bootstrap.
Oh. No, so there's 3 different themes with, and actually, so to take a step back, this worked. It was just taking a while to compile, so I wasn't trusting it. But so there are 3 different themes for KendoReact, and I can actually show.
Yeah. So I'm here cracking wise jokes about me being old about Bootstrap because people are all about Tailwind and material?
You'd be you'd be surprised how much demand we still get for Bootstrap, and that's one of the reasons why. So we have a default theme that's got a color scheme that's custom to
Yeah,
us. We have one that's based off Bootstrap
got it.
that has a this very Bootstrap feeling blue, and then also Material as well. And so we do have like an online tool that, and this takes a second for the styling to kick in, but where you can sort of customize this to
Got it.
meet your needs. But I like going to this page just because it's a quick way of seeing what your components are gonna look like at a quick glance. So
Sure.
this is the material theme. So like these look like the Android switches and
Yeah.
sort of looks like Android toolbars, buttons, and that sort of thing. And actually, so this did work. I was just not trusting Stack Blitz to compile that correctly. But I needed the one of our themes to actually make this chart look correct.
Yeah.
And I think the appeal for KendoReact, and I could simplify this data down a little bit further, but the components are first of all like just completely native React components. And so you'll see first of all they really seamlessly fall in the JSX.
Yeah.
First of all, they're composable. You use just regular sort of React syntax, like I'm just looping over. Essentially, what's happening is there's this categories, which is going to provide this axis right here, and then the actual data that's going to be charted in the actual bar charts.
Sure.
And I'm just using React to map over this.
Yeah.
But the key here really isn't the specifics because no one cares to learn the exact chart APIs here, but rather that these are quite composable and readable, and that it's using React code to do this.
Sure.
And also things like, for example, some of these things you can just like write your own like little React components to stub in to make these things a little bit more composable. Like there's a way of doing, there's a way of writing tooltips for these things.
We don't have to dig too deep into it. I know that charting libraries are generally very intense as far as the customizations
Oh
that
my
you can
God.
have.
I swear you need like a full on like masters in
Yeah.
statistics to understand some of these things do because like I still am not totally sure what a sparkline chart. Oh no, the sparkline ones are like so if you need like little tiny inline charts, these are actually kind of
Are
cool.
these for like
So
stock tickers and stuff?
yeah, so we have a lot of people building, like a lot of our customers are doing like banking insurance companies, and they have these sort of little dashboard ticker type
Yeah.
things. The Sparkline though, that's not the one I was trying to think of. What's like I have a go-to that's like what even is a radar chart? I couldn't even tell you off the top
Oh
of my
my
head.
God. Yeah.
Like I don't know who's building this, but I can tell you that like each of these things came from like customer requests and
I don't even
such.
know how to read that.
No, I have no idea what's going on. Box plot I've seen before. Like I don't think I've seen a box plot chart since high school, but if you need to write them, we have support
Wow.
for doing it. And these are modular as well, so
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about you're not shipping the code to write like every chart known to mankind
Maybe we should take a
in your
step
bundle,
back and
but
pick an easier to understand component than charts. Maybe we went too
yeah.
deep with something outrageous to start with.
What I think it's okay though because I think really at the end of the day, this is our primary value proposition or why you'd want to use us. Because really, like I think our things like our calendar and our date picker are good,
Yeah.
obviously, but like there's a bunch of other date pickers out there. The reason to use, say, our date picker is that it works well with all of our more advanced complex components, so you can create this really cohesive look to your apps.
Now,
But we can look at something way easier though, for sure.
let me dig in with some questions on the state picker. How what kind of experience would I get if this was rendered on a mobile device or tablet? Who was because it's just on a website, right?
Yeah, it's so let's just show this in action,
Yeah.
right? So you wanted to see a simpler component,
Yeah.
and the date picker is a good pick for that.
Yeah.
Because all I got to do is remember what the um, this bit is. And
Does it use like date
so,
functions or moment.js or something as kind of its backend?
no, so it's part of keeping basically an all sort of encompassing thing. Like the date functionality is actually built into us, although we do use some CLDR library for internationalization.
Sure.
So, but that's all like optional stuff. If you need that, it's available. So as long as I did this right, this is so we the you're right that the charts might have been a bit much to jump into,
Yeah.
but this is the real like simplicity you're getting. You need a theme, you need an import, which is coming in npm install,
Yeah.
and then you use the thing, right? And then boom, you have a date picker.
That's
So
and what if you click on anything? How do you interact with that data? Out of curiosity, like
uh, which data, like in
yeah. So
here?
you've added the component. Now let's say that you clicked on the 9th of May. How do you
Yep.
engage with that data now? And maybe this is a silly
Oh,
question because my hands-on experience with React is not as good as the other frameworks. So
yep.
maybe this is a stupid question. I'm not sure.
No, it's not. And actually, like that's one thing that's interesting is because there are many different ways to do
Yeah.
React. And specifically like React forms. So like all of our components that deal with forms, which is actually a surprising number of UI components are really form related,
Yeah.
right? You think date pickers, drop down list, different sorts of text inputs, different types of buttons, autocompletes, and the way you do it, like man. So React has this concept of controlled versus uncontrolled
Sure.
forms, and we allow you to do them both. We actually have a form component that's built into KendoReact too that we think simplifies the process a little bit of helping you deal with data that's actually brand new, and I haven't fooled with it a whole lot. But there's really our approach with this, just in general, is that we want to make sure that whatever you're already using for how you manage these things continues to work. So regardless of whether you're using controlled components versus uncontrolled components, they're going to continue to work
Yeah.
in React. So if you want, I could show you the way I would implement this
Yeah. Let's
if I were doing
let's
this.
see it.
So I would say, let's see, what is the do.
And it could be as
Maybe
simple
I
as
would.
saying when you pick a date, maybe show some text below it saying you picked such and such kind of thing, just to show that we've now obtained that date and we can work with it, right? It doesn't have to be too crazy.
Yep, yeah. I was just looking at the. I'm trying to figure out what the property name is. So yeah, so you'd set. Um, you'd have something like on change, and let's say we'll just do something, and then we'll have do something over here, and I think um, this is where I could use. I should have used a
Yeah.
TypeScript, but I think this is going to be have the value event target value. We'll see if this part of it works. So I change this, and yeah, so I get a data object there.
Sweet.
And so if I were using like, I would say probably like my like set my date in React at use state, and I'd probably have this empty to start, and then I'd say like set my date to event dot
Yep.
target dot value, and then I'd have this thing in a
And
form.
you're just using React hooks rather than the component way of doing business with the
I
state variables, right?
I prefer hooks at this point, at least for this sort of
Yeah.
thing. I will say with form stuff specifically, these can get a little out of hand. So for my example, setting an individual property here makes sense and it's not going to clutter it. But imagine I was working on like, I don't know, I'm writing the page for
Yeah.
TurboTax and I've got a form that somebody's filling out with 30 things. well, I don't want to write 30 lines of React.uState
Yeah.
here. And so that's where these libraries, it's like form. Yeah, I think it's this. So there's a lot of these libraries that exist for build form and React without the tiers. That's an awesome tagline that try to allow you to simplify this. And they're basically libraries that just let you do things like write a submit function that just automatically gets your data. And the other bit is like helping with validation as well. They can help with that. And we have libraries for helping with this too. But considering this app or this example we have right now is so simple, I would just implement it like this. And then I'd have an on submit that's something like, send to server or
Yeah.
whatever. And I'd have a submit button and let's see, send to server would be a function. I got this. I think the last time we talked, I was waiting for this, like these accessories to come for
Yeah.
this mic, and I'm liking them, but I'm also just getting used to them. And like when I look down to glance at
Yeah.
my keyboard for a second, I look right at the mic. So
So I mean,
I need to
I
figure that
used to
out.
have a Blue Yeti like you. That was my first real good kind of microphone that I've ever purchased, but I just had to get rid of it because it was too big for me. It sounded fantastic. The price point was great, but I couldn't see my damn screen for everything that I did with the stock mount, the arm mounts, everything. So I had to switch to these Audio Technicas.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I still like it, but it's just I don't know.
And
Oh,
it did make me
go ahead.
feel
Finish.
a lot cooler with the Yeti because it's like a rustic kind of microphone versus my
Oh,
modern Technica.
it does look really cool. Uh, so the other thing too is another big reason to use us is if you're in any sort of app where accessibility is important, right? So all of these things are keyboard compliant.
Sweet.
So I could select the eighth, submit, and then that would be like the value I sent to my server. I could also like if what I would do is if I needed to preset a date, I would say I'm making up APIs, but I would say like my date, and then I would pass this thing a new date object. So I think this will set it. Let's see if I could make up an API. Um, it looks like I cannot. But it's some way of doing it like this, where you'd set because with uState this is your starting value, and oh, actually it did work. Wait a second, hold on. So if I set it to the third, does it tick? Oh yeah, okay, never mind. I'm not trusting things today, but it actually is working. So I set the default value to a new date, which
Yeah.
is going to default today, and then I pass it to the value. So that's why the value of this is defaulting to today. And then if I change it, my state variable will get updated, and then I can submit that value to the server. So this is like and obviously simplified, but um, more that this is basically how I would implement it.
Sure.
And I think overall, like for our purposes, at just like a libraries perspective, really we want to support however it is React people want to do it. So there's other ways you can do this sort of thing with React, and it should work with our components as well.
Yeah. So now I have like another $1 million question here, and this is big nowadays. If you were to run a Lighthouse score on some KendoReact components, would they rank high? Have you tested this before?
I haven't thoroughly tested it. I know that we, from a performance perspective, have the main thing we test is our grid, just because that tends to come up a lot in terms of comparisons. So
Yeah.
we have huge performance suites that run on these things. I don't know. Why don't we try? There's some way in we could see how our date picker does. What
Yeah.
is it going to yell at us or not?
I wouldn't know how to do that in Stack Blitz. Because you're gonna have to jump through Stack Blitz hoops, probably, right? Well,
Yeah, we'll see.
maybe they have something baked in.
Yeah, there's a way of like opening these up in another window. Now, I wouldn't necessarily want to trust a performance
Yeah.
test running in this environment, because who knows like what other nonsense they're doing.
Sure.
But I don't know, maybe. Let's see what it's actually. Yeah, this isn't like probably like production compiled, but I don't. Let's
It'll
do
give
it.
us a
Let's see what
general
happens.
idea, right? The goal
Uh,
that I'm looking for is to see if we end up with like a 30% or something.
yeah. No, let's see. Let's fail it live on air so I can get in trouble.
And then we'll have to scrub it from ever happening.
Yeah. No, I'm confident, especially in like this sort of situation where there's just one component,
Yeah. All
right?
right. So not too
And
bad.
I'm guessing, yeah, and I'm guessing a lot of this is just down to
Yeah.
like this isn't a production build. So,
And I mean, for a
and also like
free tool.
it's complaining about things that are controlled by stack blitz. Like this document doesn't have a
Sure.
title, right? Like we're not controlling that in stack blitz,
Yeah.
but
And I mean, you're dealing with Stack Blitz being free and probably on limited resource servers as well. And I mean, there's a lot of factors that are out of your control.
yeah, we could even. So I do have this app. Let's look. We could try more of a real world
Sure. Yeah. Let's
situation
check it out.
because I've got an app here which actually isn't running
Sure.
much of anything right now. Let's see what I have running. Oh, that's my Angular port. It's React time. So right now I have just a single. I have a single component. This drawer component.
Yeah.
And so we could run this thing through. And I think this also isn't a production build either.
But it'll.
I don't know, but
It's running locally. You should get beyond some of the things that Stack Blitz. It's out of your control.
yeah, and actually, let's since we're doing this, let's switch over to because you can't see like I have a demo where I sort of build this up, but if we're interested in just looking at the end of this, let me just switch over to the done part.
Yeah.
That way we can that way we can look at something a little bit more complete. I think we have everything installed here. And this is just like a simple little app with a few pages.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it compares. Really, I could do like I can't remember how to do, it's been so long. I can't remember how to do a production build of React, you know?
Yeah.
There's like a flag.
Is it just hyphen
Might as
hyphen
well
production?
build React. It might be.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up because I figured this will probably just take like 1 second.
And I don't
npm.
I don't expect any of this to get 100% scores. I put somebody else on the spot when they were doing Gatsby, and of course it's not going to get 100%. There's a lot of factors.
Oh no, like I'm just curious. I'm confident enough to know that like what you're actually seeing here, I'm actually expecting it to not do super well
Yeah.
just because of the very nature of what we're doing isn't necessarily Lighthouse specific.
Sure.
Because, for example, there are charts and graphs in here.
Yeah.
Let me see in here. Like there are multiple charts. There are our grid is in here as well, which our grid is super powerful, but that also means
Yeah.
like, you know, they're modular, but at the to a certain extent, if you need a grid, you need a decent amount of code.
Yeah.
And I'd say honestly, for the most part, if you were building something that's mobile focused, you wouldn't want to use KendoReact.
Sure.
Just because there are better things that are more hyper focused on helping you build a great mobile web experience. Yeah. The reason to use us would be more. I mean, there's a reason our demos kind of look like. Well, you'll see this one in a second. Is because we really are targeting more of internal applications, dashboards, apps where there's a lot of data going on.
Sure.
And in those apps, the performance is still important, but you also don't necessarily need the bar is not like 100 on Lighthouse either. So,
but TJ, SEO
so you can
is
see
everything.
like what's that?
SEO is everything. You got to model your whole life around it.
The build is we serve it to a static folder. I don't think I've ever done this before. Let's do it.
We're learning.
Yarn global add serve and then serve-s build. I don't even know what this is going to do, but we're totally doing it.
I had other optimization questions as well. If you're down for them, or if I'm just going to just destroy your everything that you dreamt of for this example.
No, that's fine. We're having fun here. I didn't even know React had this. So I guess first of all, I can show you around. Like this is a little sample app I have, and you can drop a a link in the chat if anybody wants to tool around this. And I have like a little spiel where I build this up from scratch just because I think to me this is an example that's still kind of simple. Like, this isn't going to be a real world thing you're actually going to ship, but it's at least a little bit more real world than Hello World. Like, it's using some charts and graphs. It's using a grid with a decent amount of data. There's a drawer, but you can sort of see the benefit in terms of a cohesive look and feel.
Oh yeah, it's
all those
it's an attractive application.
Thank you. Well, I'm not really the one to take credit for. I stole like all the design. I didn't do any of these components. I put the pieces together.
Oh, all right.
All right, let's see how it does. I see it looks halfway decent on mobile.
Oh, it looks fantastic on mobile.
We'll see. It's like I don't even think is there a service worker? I don't know. I know it's going to yell at me for some things. Oh man, I crushed SEO.
Of all things.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay. The images are probably on me because like some of these things I just whatevered.
Yeah. So
let's
see.
The
CSS thing is what I was going to ask about. Is there any kind of integration with like Purge CSS and all the things that would strip out unused JavaScript and CSS during the build time?
That's a good question, and actually, it's interesting to me that like that's one of the biggest things it's yelling at me for. Yeah. So we do support. I don't know if I'm showing it in here, but all of our controls. Oh, I think I know why, because I'm using Bootstrap for this one. I'm gonna totally throw Bootstrap under the bus here and blame this on them.
Yeah, I blame it on them too, because that's the reason my sites don't rank very well. Because I can't use things like Purge CSS effectively. I have to manually go in and disable everything that I plan to not use, which is a total drag.
Lighthouse should probably come up and just slap me on the face for this line right here, because I know you can be more modular with this as well. So, Kendra, you're not prevented from shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah. But to answer your question directly, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know. I know that all of our stuff is, and actually this is not efficient either, because you'll see that I'm doing dis/all.
Yeah, which is everything.
Which is everything, and that's why it's yelling at me with this. But you can get in, like, actually, how smart is VS Code? Let's see. Not as smart as I want it to be. Actually, is this? Let's see. Okay, no, it's not smart. But you can get like at the component level, like what I should do if I were actually optimizing this for production, I'd say, okay, there's like some like general.scss, and then I'd have to get in like grid.scss and the drawer.scss and be a little bit more modular, and our documentation will help you through this. But you know what? When you're building a little demo, like all.scss and bootstrap.scss, and you're on your way.
Yeah. No, my hopes and dream, and I don't think any provider offers
but I know,
it, but like, my hopes and dream would be to have like the build process just strip stuff away for you.
I would like that too, and actually, I think I'm not super familiar with the React like build chain, but I actually would have hoped for better for it to actually figure out more of this for me automatically. Because honestly, as a developer, like it would be nice to just keep this in here, because I don't want to have to go to the docs and like manage a list of components I'm using and a list of Bootstrap features I'm using. Yeah. Especially when like in React, all of this is fairly self-contained. So
we'll probably get there one day, but not yet.
Yeah, I know. So all I can say to answer your question is that like there are modular SCSS files, and from there it's just up to whatever React tooling you're using to help you from there.
Was there anything else you wanted to show us, man, while we've got you on the line?
Oh, this is okay. Yeah. So now that I'm actually in this app here, so this is TypeScript, and the one thing I wanted to show, let me pick out something at random. Yeah. So let's say,
I don't know if it's random, if it's something you wanted to show. No.
I don't know. The things I want to show are random.
I'm calling you out.
So this is so TSX, right? So I'm now in TypeScript. And so what I did for this example is let's see. So I have my grid down here. So this is again our most popular component. And actually, let me start this up so that we can look at it. But the grid, you can see, again, it's a pretty simple, easy to use component. But what I like is the composability that we offer, and I'd say like extensibility hooks. So for example, in this app, I needed to change some things about the grid cells. So let's see if this loaded up. Oops, missed a 0. And I think it's still, there we go. So if I don't provide any this attribute, you'll see when it refreshes, this cell here is going to go back to just like a default looking cell. So like this is a common thing, right? You're using a component. This is a grid column that's part of our grid, but you need some custom behavior. You're like, oh, well, I have these numbers, but actually these are percentages, and it'd be cool to highlight these. So we provide a lot of extensibility hooks for things like this, especially in our more advanced components, to say, hey, we'll give you a hook for this and say, all right, so this is this cell here. And because I'm TypeScript, I can get props on this and see like, get documentation on here's all the things that I'm going to be given and the things that I'm expected to return. And so in this case, if I looked at the docs, it would say, you want to pass back a TD. But from there, you can do whatever you want. And you're just in React land, so you can do anything React's going to let you do. So I can say, hey, is my value positive or negative? And I'm going to apply a class name to provide that red and green highlighting. And then also I want a percent sign because these are percent values. So you're not relying on some API that we're providing directly to do that. Instead, you just sort of have the power to sort of customize that to meet your needs. And I think it also comes into play. Oh man, I'm using you can yell at me later for the TypeScript hack with any, but
I don't think you should use TypeScript anymore.
I got to turn in my TypeScript card. You're exposing all the cheats I used on this demo. But the same sort of thing here with like, I need a tooltip for this chart here. Well, like I can do something where I just return a bit of code, right? I get an extensibility hook. So instead of us providing, say, like a couple different types of tooltips you can get out of the box, instead we tend to lean more towards this extensibility model to sort of, we try to do something intelligent by default. So I think, actually, I think if I don't do this at all, you still get something. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think there's some default in play. Yeah. So by default, it just shows the value. Perfect. And then, if you need to customize it, then you have this hook, you've got the data, and you can do, we have examples where like sometimes people put crazy things in tooltips, and people sometimes take tooltips way too far. Like we have people that go absolutely nuts in tooltips, but I mean, hey, sometimes you need to show a lot of stuff in a tooltip. So, or do something custom graphics, who knows what. So we try to lean towards just giving people power for that. And like then I'll show one more just to show my point a little bit more. Like I said, this tends to be more true. Like there's some of these hooks in our smaller components, but these things tend to be more important as you get into more complex stuff. So like for our scheduler, right? Like it's like I said, it's like a full-on like Outlook calendar in your browser.
That's pretty fancy.
So there's hooks for doing things like is it customization? Yeah. I think this is the page I'm looking for. So as you might imagine, over time we had people that wanted to throw like maybe you needed a little I think you can do crazy things in here. But you need to show like little graphics in these little slots that appear on the calendar, or maybe you need to. Actually, this wasn't the example I was looking for. I think it's the items customization I'm looking for. Where basically each individual calendar item you can control, like for example, what color it is. Like I think there's some code in here that says this pink versus blue. So yeah, here again, custom item. So if this is an all-day one, I have different colors, but the point I'm trying to make is like this is custom code and a custom hook. And that's the approach we try to take, especially for these more advanced components where we know people are gonna want to really be able to get in and hack on these things.
Awesome. No, this is fantastic. That's a beautiful calendar right there.
Calendar is cool. This scheduler, like I said, the grid is probably the single most like I could spend an entire hour talking about the grid
Yeah.
because honestly, most people that buy Kendo UI, this is even broader than Kendo React, Kendo Angular, buy us for the
Yeah.
grid just because it's incredibly common thing to need to
Oh yeah.
do. And there's just so much you can do with these things and so much value you can potentially provide. So if you are considering the library at all, I mean, I would say doing what I'm doing right now is the best sense of to figure out what KendoReact offers. It's pretty easy to find. It's just kendoreact.com and this docs and demos page, and you can spend some time
Wait,
just
so,
playing around
so that's
here.
KendoReact.com? Was that like a forwarding link?
It does. So if you go here, it's oh man, I could also
I'll add it. I'm
complain
gonna add
about
it to the chat.
I could complain about branding for a while because you'll see it's Progress Kendo React on
It's all
Telleric.com.
good.
And it's, let's just say we might have lost some branding battles down the
Yeah.
road, but one battle we did win is that KendoReact.com takes you where you want to
Yeah.
go. So,
Works for me, man. Um, if somebody wants to reach out to you after this stream, you're TJ VanToll on Twitter, right?
I am, yes, Twitter, TJ
I'm just
VanToll.
gonna add that in.
And the other link I will drop if you were interested at all in the dashboard that I showed. Let me drop that in the chat as well.
Yeah, I know.
Because that's
I didn't
just
update
a
my
reference.
my chatbot rules, so it just got blocked. What's the URL here? I'll type it in: github.com/tjvantoll/financial
Slash
hyphen dashboard.
financial dash dashboard. And I'll throw it in our
Sweet.
Skype chat as well, so you have it.
Yeah, it's all good. It should be there. I'm gonna click it to make sure it's good. Yeah, it's good. It's in the chat. Yeah, no, this was good stuff. It definitely educated me on the whole subject. So let me are you done presenting? Should I switch back to what I'm gonna call the news anchor mode?
Sure, yeah, let's do it. I didn't have anything else I necessarily needed to show.
Yeah, so now it's just our big heads and my crazy hairdo right now since my hair's getting out of control. Yeah, so no, this is very educational. And I'm glad that you came back on the stream even though we had such poor experience the first time around.
Yeah, it happens. Eventually, we'll figure out this streaming thing. We struggle with this stuff as well, but
Yeah,
it's getting
I'm
easier.
actually looking at my stats in Open Broadcast Studio right now. From what I can tell, and I could be wrong, I've had basically a buttery smooth experience right now. There's very few drop frames. The FPS stayed high. I actually am going to be publishing a blog on this hopefully this week on how I fixed OBS on my old ancient Mac, because this is stuff people don't know about if they're getting into streaming.
Yeah, I've got to be better too about publishing, talking about things that I've learned going through it as well, because it's definitely a painful experience at times.
Yeah, I mean, heck, we're
So,
both remote, and I've got you on the stream, right? So I mean, that's an accomplishment in itself as well.
yeah. No, and it's especially now that we're all stuck at home too. It's in a way, it's sort of a lifesaver. So,
Well, TJ, I know that it's late over there. What is it, 9 p.m.? I don't want to keep you too long. So once again, I do appreciate that you came on the stream.
yeah, and if anybody has any questions, hopefully you check out KendoReact, kendoreact.com. Any questions, toss them my way on Twitter and can help you out.
Perfect.